Hi everyone, welcome to another Java coding tutorial with Mr. Rosen. Today what I want to do is actually create a physics calculator. There's a famous triangle here, which is the distance, velocity, time triangle. And it's got three different versions of the equation. So velocity is distance over time, distance is velocity times time, and time is distance divided by velocity. I'm going to code this into Java and make a calculator that will work out all three of these. So the idea here is that it's going to ask the user, do you want to get velocity, do you want to get distance, do you want to get time? It'll ask for the inputs, and then it's going to use methods to calculate these. So it's a pretty simple equation, and again, the whole point of this is just to show you how to use methods. It's not really about working with the equations because it's pretty simple, the equations. This lesson is more about methods itself. So let's get started. Let's create a new project. And I'm going to call this thing DVT calculator. And just going to clear this up. The first thing I'm actually going to do is build my methods before I do anything else. Okay, so underneath the main, this is where my main, all my code's going to go in here, but I'm going to make methods below it. So the first one I'm going to make is, what's the first one here? Velocity is distance over time. Let's deal with that one. So this will be the velocity method. Now, if I look at the equation, I need to have the distance and the time. I'm going to divide those, and I'm going to get an answer, and my answer is going to be a number. So I think both of these should be doubles, because I want to be able to have decimals, and I also think the answer, the velocity, will also be a double. So I'm going to use that in my code here. So let's go public, static, double. I'm putting double because that's the type of answer I'm going to get. I'm going to call this thing calc v for calc velocity. And I'm going to need the double, I need the distance, and the double for the time. Okay, so if this is my input distance and my input time, then the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to say double v equals distance divided by time. I think that's right. Distance over time. Yeah. And then finally, I can return it. So return v. So that's my method right there. So again, the method, I called it calc v. The answer or the result that has to be returned has to be a double. It has two inputs, double dist and double time. And then all I do is I divide those two, and then I return the answer, which is v, which is a double, and it matches this thing. Let's go ahead and make the other ones now. So let's make the distance method. So the distance is going to be very similar. Public, static, double, calc d, and we'll put double veloc, or velo is fine, and double time. Really, you can call these things whatever you want. You could just put double v and double t. That would totally be okay. Doesn't really matter. It should just be close to what it is, what you're looking for. The velocity is v, right? Okay. So the distance formula is velocity times time. So for this one, double d equals velo times time. And we're going to return it. Return d. So again, with this one, it's a public method. Okay, it has to return a double. So I'm returning d, and d is a double, so it's okay. I called the method calc d, and I have two input variables. I have double velo for velocity, and double time, and that's going to be for the time, obviously. These are my two input variables. These are what I can work with inside my method. And I can calculate the distance like that, and then return it. Finally, let's create our time method. Public static double calc t, and what do we need? We need the distance, and we need the velocity for this. And the formula for time is distance divided by velocity. So double t equals distance divided by velocity. And then we return, oops, I cannot spell today, return t. I also spelled static wrong right here. All right. So again, this is the same exact design as the other two. It's just this time I have distance and velocity coming in. It has to return a double. That's what this is telling me. And I go ahead and divide those, and I return the double number, which is a t. Now, how do we actually use this? So my main method, what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to ask the user what type of calculation do we want. So let's create a scanner. New scanner system.in. I got to fix the imports on this. Okay. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just ask the user system.out.println which calculation do you wish to perform? And then what I'll do here is one is going to be for calculate velocity. To calculate distance. Oops. And then println. 3 is going to be calculate time. Okay. Now let's get the actual answer here. So let's create a string up here. Let's call it choice. Actually, we can use an int for this, can't I? Int is going to be better. Int choice. And then we can say choice equals input.next int. Okay. So that should print this out, and then I can get my number from right here. Next thing I'm going to use is if statement. So I'm going to say if choice equals 1. Then we're going to do velocity. Else if choice equals 2. Then we'll do distance. And then else if choice equals 3. This is time. And then I'm just going to say else println. I'm just going to put invalid selection. Okay. Now it's probably telling me to make a switch with this, but that's fine. Yeah, we'll just use it like this. Okay, so let's do the velocity one first. So for the velocity, I need to ask the user for the distance and time. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to say, let's actually create the variables first. Double v comma t. And we'll go system.out.print. We're going to say velocity. Oh, wait, we don't need velocity. We need distance for this one. Distance equals. And then I'm going to say d equals input.next double. And I'm going to go system.out.print. Time equals plus t. No, wait, no t there. T equals input.next double. Okay. Let's just try to make sure this actually looks correct before I do anything here. Appearance-wise, I want to make sure it actually works. Okay, so I did velocity. Distance is 7. Time is 9. Okay. Appearance-wise, it looks fine. Okay, so I've got the distance and the time in the keyboard right now. Now, the way I have to call this method is the method name is called calcv. I have to send the distance first and the time second. It has to match the order that I have right here. Otherwise, this calculation will be backwards. So let's go like this. Double v equals calc v bracket d comma t. And then we'll print it out. Velocity equals plus v. Okay, I'm just gonna run and make sure it works, and then I'll explain it one more time how this is gonna, or how it works. Okay, so let's do a velocity. We're gonna go 10 kilometers in 5 seconds. I don't know. The units don't matter, but it does actually divide it properly. So 10 divided by 5 would give the 2, which is correct. Okay. So how does this actually work? So what I've done is I've actually asked the user for the distance and the time, and I've gotten those with the keyboard. The next thing I'm going to do is I need to call calc_v. And calc_v is a method down here. It requires me to send a distance first and a time. So if you look in my main program, the variables I'm currently using for distance and time is d and t. So that's what I'm going to be using here, d and t. These get sent down into the method. And what happens is in the method, they basically get relabeled as dist and time. See, the thing is, I don't, like, if I'm creating this method, if I make it beforehand, like I did earlier, I don't know what I'm going to call it inside my main. I might call it X. I might not even use variables potentially. So what happens is there's like a system where the input gets relabeled. So it gets relabeled as dist, and that's how I use it inside my method. It's not called D in the method, it's called dist. And these match up. So D matches with dist, T matches with time. And then what happens if I do my calculation and I return this velocity? So it has to get sent back and it has to go somewhere. So that's why this line has to have an equal sign, because I have to set this v variable I've made here equal to the answer of calc_v. So it has to return this number and it has to do something with it. So that's why it has to be in an equal sign. So that's how the velocity calculation is going to work out. Let's try doing the distance and the time one. Very, very similar, except that it's just going to be different variable names we're going to use. I'm just pasting these in here. So for distance, I need velocity and time. So let's create velocity here. Velocity equals, and then v. And oh, I'm messing myself up here. Distance, I need velocity. Sometimes it's better not to copy and paste. Okay, so distance needs velocity and a time. So this is distance. I got a velocity and a time. Those are figured out. The time one needs a distance and a velocity. So I don't need t, I need d. Velocity and distance. Oops. So velocity and distance. Okay. Now, let's worry about doing the calculation. So this one here is distance. So double D equals calc D, and I have to send in the velocity first, followed by the time. So up here, my velocity variable is v, and t is time. And then we can print it out. Distance equals plus d. Okay, I'm going to test that one real quick before I go on to the third one here. So let's calculate our distance. So let's say we're doing 10 kilometers an hour for 5 hours, 50. Perfect. Again, I'm not worrying about units right here. I'm more worried about getting the method to work right. All right, so we know that one's good now. The last one we're going to do is our time one. So we're going to say double T equals calc T bracket. Now if I'm looking at the calc T method, first thing is the distance, second thing is the velocity. So I have to make sure it's in the right order. So it's going to be d comma v. Has to be distance followed by velocity. And then we can go ahead and print this out. So this is the time equals plus t. Okay. And calculate time. 10, 20. Is that right? Yeah, that would work, right? If I want to go 20 kilometers and I'm going 10 kilometers an hour, it takes 2 hours. Yeah, so that is correct. So again, this little video here, I just wanted to show you a little bit more about how to make methods. So methods usually have an input. Here's the input. And some kind of an output. In this case, they're all doubles. They don't always have to be doubles though. You could have integers coming in and doubles going out. You can have strings coming in, doubles going out. You can have all kinds of things. So this is just a little example of how to do a physics calculator the distance velocity time calculations in Java, and hopefully you learned a little bit about methods in the process here.